So we're talking about the young ones there, but Mel, you work with young offenders, don't you? You've got
Well, this is a subject that I've studied for decades, actually. So I've always been fascinated on how we perform, particularly under pressure. And from the age of, when we're born, but certainly from the age of 2 to 6 or 0 to 6, as human beings, we're just downloading machines. We have not got the facility to consciously say, is this good for me or isn't it? Or all we're doing is copying everybody around us and doing what we need to do to survive and fit in with our community, our tribe. So, and it's not until the age of 7, and everybody that's had kids knows that they'll then start asking you, well, why have I got to do that? Why is that? But they don't. They believe they'll take everything that you tell them, and up until the age of about 6. That's why with kids up to that age totally believe in Father Christmas and anything that you tell them. So once you've then got the ability, but then 80-90% of what we believe, how the world works, is in our subconscious mind, and it's a program that we're running behind or subconsciously, and so that dictates how the world works for us. And if any of the programming that we've had between up to about 6 or 7 isn't serving us well, we don't know about it because it's running in the background. And it's a bit like a computer. I always use a computer analogy, that when you're born pristine hard drive, then we put the software on, the programs onto it in the first 6 years. Now, if there's any viruses in those programs, we don't know because it's just running in the background, so we then have to put good programs in if we haven't had them, and these are all the techniques that Dave, as a manager, will have been using, and everything he's just talked about, talking the lad down from committing suicide. These are all the things that we can help everybody with. But it's really important that the work that you're doing and everybody that's helping and making people aware that there are things going on, and these have been programmed before we've even got an opportunity to actually question them. So coming out and talking is saying, well, this is how I am, but that wasn't my choice. I was just born in this environment, and if the environment that we're in, this is why I know I've got one of the lads from Liverpool that I've worked with, and this could be any neighbourhood, the tough neighbourhoods in any town or city. But if the whole ethos of your environment is, well, you do this to survive, then it's no wonder that to fit in and survive, they're going to be doing things that they end up in jail. And I work with, and help ex-offenders.
Yeah, because we become a product of our environment. So it's like, these are our paradigms.
Absolutely.
So everything that is happening around us is going into our subconscious mind. That then creates our results, and then that's how we behave. And it takes time for us, so the young footballers, they've been told that they're good and, they're going to make it. And then that's what they believe. And then the minute they hit a brick wall, everything comes crashing down. So now they've got to find a new way of learning, changing those paradigms and finding.
I think within football now, they are looking into that a lot more through education, because now, certainly when I played, and I'm sure, you two played, that the education side of it wasn't even really there. You are now in the football club, you are now a player, where now the academies and everything else part of their learning is, they go to the schools, they're educated, they're going to continue with their exams to get their qualifications. Where in our time, I would think that it was just purely football. And when you didn't get that pro contract, then you are put on the scrap heap. That's it. The club has nothing to do, or didn't have anything to do with you then. You're gone. There are a lot of clubs now that sort of do a little bit of aftercare, which is good. They'll try and get them other clubs and everything else. But in the sport itself, if we're truly honest with ourselves, we're only looking for the ones that are going to come through and play.
Yes.
And it is a very, very dog-eat-dog environment.
Brutal is a word I would use. It can be brutal. But going back to your youngster that you talked down from the bridge, you guys that were there talked him out of doing something silly. So what we've got to try and do is make sure that people, not just youngsters, know that let's talk.
Yes.
Because before he got to that stage, if you could have sat him down and talked it through with him, he may not have ended up on that bridge. And I think that's a key message for us to get out there, that talking is
absolutely
a massive
I think it's
part
about
of the solution.
preventing that point where they make that decision to go and get onto the bridge or anything else. I mean, in construction, people are taking their lives. They're working at heights and they're jumping off buildings and scaffolding, and it's sad. But the point is that they've not had somebody to talk to, or they've not spoken about it to somebody, and we want to prevent that point, that final point where they've made that decision to jump. So we want to kind of get them to talk and open up. Why do you think that men in particular, so 77% of men struggle with mental health, and why do you think that there's such a high number of men that are struggling with mental health, like with the stigma?
I believe it's just role models and the belief, because we're all running from our beliefs, and those beliefs can be subconscious, but the belief of and if they believe that they're not good enough, they're not worthy, they're not approved of, ultimately that they're not loved or lovable, then that program is running. And the programs, the way that I'm sure that a lot of people can be helped is understanding that, and then putting empowering programs in, saying, I am worthy, I am good enough, and people being told that, yes, you are good enough. You're good enough as you are. You don't have to be anything else but your genuine, the best version of you.
Yes.
I think that's difficult. And again, I'll go back to the
it's not
sport
easy,
that I know.
Dave.
No, to the sport I know, because you could have 60,000 people telling you that you're not good enough. Understand?
Been there, yeah.
I was just saying, you could have your stakeholders, and everything else. So, if you're losing every week and you're being told, and the press are at you, and the so-called experts, they're all there, and they're all saying he's not good enough, not good enough. There must be. And I've spoke to my wife about this many times, whether it's just luck or whatever, I don't know, but I've never really felt under that sort of pressure, and I'm sure I have in my life, and the people closest to you might see a change and everything else, whether I've got a self-made mechanism that sort of cuts it off. But if you're continually told that you're not good enough, and by pundits, this, that, fans, and everything else, that must have some bearing, because you must go home and think, am I good enough? And thankfully, I never got to that stage. Winning might help, that might help. But if you're constantly being told not good enough, you've got to go, you've got to change, and everything else, somewhere along the line, there will be somebody that starts to believe that.
And this is now even miles more of a problem than when the three of us played. Social media.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because now, not just 60,000 that are in the stadium can tell you you're not good enough. Millions, tens of millions of people can
Yes.
tell you you're not good enough because they've got that opportunity on social media. So the stress, and I, for the life of me, guarantee. Well, I don't go on social media as a pundit, let alone if I when I was a player. So, like, you know, everybody telling you all kinds of stuff. If I was less thick-skinned, it might be a problem. I think in our generation, you didn't really have a lot of choice but to be a little thick-skinned to get through some of the problems. And you shouldn't have to be that way now. And I just think that going back to all of the things that we've discussed, ultimately, as a human being, it comes down to expectation.
Yes.
It's a key word.
Of course.
So it's your expectation of yourself and it's others'
And society.
expectations of you.
Yeah.
And if you feel that you're failing to meet on either of those two levels, that expectation, that's when things can turn.